We're seeing and hearing of progress on and off the field of this football club, and it maintains heartening rise from those dark days when we nearly lost it. Certainly there's plenty to talk about, and we're delighted to have Chief Executive Mark Catlin and Manager Kenny Jackett present on our panel this evening to answer your questions. Also with us this evening is Neil Allen, or should I say award-winning Neil Allen, as our Chief Sports Writer this week retained his crown as Regional Journalist of the Year at the British Sports Journalism Awards. And no, he didn't pay me to say that. Since fan ownership purged the club of people unfit to govern, Pompey have prided themselves on communication, transparency and honesty, forging a closer bond with the community it serves. And so we genuinely thank Mark and Kenny for giving up their time this evening to speak to you, the supporters of this very special club. So if you can welcome them onto the stage, please, Mark, Kenny and Neil Allen. Yeah. So before I open up the floor to the questions, and we have had questions submitted, so I'll be going around the floor and asking people to put their questions very shortly. Before we do, I'd just like to kick off with a couple of questions of my own. First up to Kenny. A nice simple one to ease us into the evening. So which sides, obviously aside from Pompey, do you feel are best placed to compete for those two coveted automatic promotion spots this season in what's been a very tight division?
I think that is the key. It is tight, but if you're looking at the top two, Coventry have got a bit. We've played them recently and they defended very well that night, which I didn't think that they necessarily had, and then if you're looking at their record, they only have sort of 3 defeats this season, so that's a formidable record, and obviously is very good. Rotherham have the pedigree, so on a very, very close top of the table at the moment. The top 2 are there, but we know from last year when you're up there to be shot at, and you can slip up as well. So I think it's wide open for 9 clubs. Gillingham are 10th, so probably Steve Evans will be calling me tonight, but I do think it's top 9 anyway, and there's 6 places, and I think out of those 9, obviously, three of us will be successful. Be really interesting if the Carl Robinson situation affects Oxford, but it's a good call. Really pleased to be in there, and the good thing is our season is in front of us and ahead of us. Yeah.
I'm just trying to recall. Have you ever been in a situation at this tail end of the season where you've been in that thing where it's just been so tight? Few points from first to mid-table, only a couple of points behind the top 2 with a game in hand against Rotherham. Have you been in that?
Yeah, I have. I mean, when we went up at Swansea the first year I was there, we only went up on the last day, and there was several permutations on the last day of the season, and it looks like it could be that tight again, doesn't it, at the moment? But I have been involved in it, and as ever, the big thing is while we all look at the permutations and the fixtures, as ever, get your own team sorted out and your own form. And I think a big advantage we've got is we have the best crowd, and home and away, that can be a real advantage in a key time and a time when we really do need the momentum.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you very much, Kenny. Thank you for that. Next question to Mark, and actually, so we asked our guests tonight to submit some questions, and probably the majority of the questions were actually around the ground and the redevelopment of Fratton Park. So when you gave the details a couple of months ago now about the Milton End redevelopment and the wider issues with transport and access and Fratton Station, it's obviously generated a lot of interest from fans. So I just didn't know whether there's any update you can give us on where you are with the redevelopment and discussions possibly about the transport links.
I think obviously Network Rail's important, the road network's important, but there's other things as well, such as park and ride, bikes, super fast highways in on match days, potential road closures, apart from maybe the park and ride coming in. So there's a wide-ranging discussion going on with a lot of people, because obviously I'm keen personally as chief exec to try and push it along. I know Michael is as well, but the more things we can do, just to bring this home, how poor the transport is coming in. A few weeks ago, the council took the decision to widen the resident parking scheme.
Yep.
And on the Monday morning after that, the first time it happened, I started getting emails from supporters saying, I'm not renewing my season ticket next year because of just how difficult it is to get to the ground and get out after the game. And they went around for an hour trying to find a parking spot, and that's with our current capacity. So what Michael's saying is correct in that if we don't address that, we're never going to attract 25, 30,000 here. So we have got this unique opportunity at the moment where we don't want to rush it just to get the Milton end done and then start divulging what we want to do with the North Stand and beyond, because we've lost any bargaining we've got at that point. So we have to try and keep every aspect out there, and I'm sure that sensible people would know that we don't want to be really doing our negotiating in public, and so I'm trying to keep things as close to our chest as we can, but obviously conscious of the fact of the openness and transparency of trying to keep supporters as informed as we can. But we've said all along, Michael said since he came into the club, he loves Fratton Park, he doesn't really want to move, but we have got a one-time opportunity now with what the council know we want to do with this area to leverage a little bit of that and say, look, we need a bit of help back. And it doesn't have to be that much.
Mm-hmm. And relationships with the council, I'm assuming they're sympathetic with the cause? But
they're very, very sympathetic, all three political parties, but it's just frustrating where the council blames central government blame this department, that department blames central government. So I'm just getting caught up in that little political sphere, even if it's not the political parties, but the politics involved in it. But I do think that I'm being made aware there's some funding pots available, and we're just trying to get some of that funding pots. I stress again, not to do anything on Fratton Park. We know that's our responsibility, but just trying to improve the Fratton Park area, the Milton area, because as part of Michael's plans and our strategy as a club is built around being self-sustainable, and being self-sustainable in the Championship means probably having to generate 4 or 5 million, maybe more than what we're doing now. And that has to be quite a large-scale scheme, and we have made people aware of that scheme at the council, and there are talks ongoing on a regular basis, and it's not just with the council, it's with the Navy, it's with the university, it's with the politicians, it's with national government, it's with Network Rail as well. So there's a wide range of people that are involved, and they are all sympathetic, and we are hopefully working towards a solution.
But not a quick one.
I don't think it's going to be a quick one.
No.
I mean, when you look at the Tottenham Stadium as an example, I think that was over a decade from conception to finishing. I hope it's not that long. Yeah.
And the Milton end itself, any update on where you are with that?
So the planning we took on, as we said, we produced the plans. We got some really great feedback from supporters, which we said we was going to take as part of that consultation, really. And we fed that back to the planners, and I'm hoping any day now we will be putting the official planning application in.
Okay, good stuff. Good luck with that. And Neil, question to you. As stated in the intro there, life as a Pompey fan is full of its ups and downs. You've been covering the club for a number of years now. But how do you manage, what's the insight of how you manage to maintain your passion in following this club year after year after year?
I've got a very patient wife and family because I get back a bit carried away. It's never dull, Pompey, is it? It's just never boring, even this season. We've seen all sorts, from the lows to the highs, and so there's always something to get excited about, get interested about, that can capture your attention, and it's just never dull. And you look at some clubs and you think, how boring it must be to cover them, because nothing happens, such as Southampton, really. But you think about it, we're off to Wembley now for the 7th time in 12 years. So, me, Jordan, and some of the other lads, we've been there 7 times in 12 years, as well as the fans. Who gets to do that, other than if you're Arsenal, you play there for your home games, or Spurs for home games. So things like that, it's just never a dull club, and then you get so many special moments along the way, winning the League 2 title, which is personally my favourite, because we all saw where Pompey came from, where the depths they sank to, and then to win it on that day was really, really special. To beat Harry Redknapp Spurs at Wembley 2-0, I think everyone was expecting a hammering, and to do that, and there's just been so many wonderful moments along the way, and I know people often in recent times say this is the worst football they've ever seen. No, it's not. Come on. Has everyone forgotten what happened between 2012 and 2015? So and that's why we're here. And I'm an Aston Villa fan. I'm from the Midlands. I've still got the accent. I support Warwickshire Cricket Club. I'm a Midlander. But it gets in your blood, Pompey, and I'm sure Mark will agree, and Kenny as well, that it gets to you. You know, you've covered them for so long, you follow them for so long, you get emotionally caught up in it. Again, I'll go back to Cheltenham, and I get quite emotional talking about it, because it was just a stunning day. And moments like that, we were lucky. We really are lucky, because you go to the depths, and the highs are that much more. Mm-hmm. And I think we've all been to plenty of depths in Pompey, in well, not only the 20 years, but people before that in the 70s, I suppose, as well. So it's what Pompey is, and it's a great ride, isn't it? So
it keeps going in the right direction. Just a quick one. Kenny said that it's Coventry are Rotherham are the ones to shoot down. From all you've seen, for all the football you've seen this season, what are your thoughts on the biggest challenge to Pompey's promotion?
Well, it's interesting. The other day I got an email from a journalist that covers Peterborough, and he was asking all the League One journalists who they thought would get promoted. And I didn't have time to respond, actually. I was really busy. And I was reading...
Busy winning awards or something, you told me, I think.
Yeah, it was. It was a morning. I wasn't that well in the morning. So I didn't respond. I was reading it yesterday, and no one mentioned Pompey.
Really?
Not a single person mentioned Pompey either finishing in the top two or the playoffs. And that interested me, because even Gillingham was saying, we think that Gillingham can get up there. Come on. But I think people underestimating Pompey clearly. Because the run of Pompey, that stat about Pompey won 21 of the last 29 games in all competitions, it's staggering. And the home record, the only team undefeated outside the Premier League. Now this is Pompey's strength at the moment, the home form is their strength. And Pompey have quietly come up the table there, haven't they? And people are disregarding them. But they're going to be right up there. And for me, the away games against Peterborough, Rotherham are going to be crucial, absolutely crucial. And if Pompey can get a win or draws out of those, that will be it. But I think Fratton Park is so important, and as I say, it just interested me how people don't really fancy them, despite I think if Pompey win tomorrow, they could be third in the table.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you very much, Neil. Thank you very much. I'm going to open up the floor to questions that we've had submitted now. So it carries two risks with it. One is whether the people who have submitted the questions are here this evening, and two, if they are here, whether they can remember what their question was. So, but I know the first person won't let me down. So if I can call out your name, if you wait for we've got handheld mics, I'm hoping. So either wait for the handheld mic or just shout loudly. So first question, Ian.
I think I shout loudly, is that okay? So it's a really boring first question for you, Kenny. It really sort of came back from the Coventry game. Me and my son, 18, we go to quite a few away games, and we're chatting back, and we just discussed the fact, in that game we looked a bit leggy. And we're talking about how we can refresh teams and things like that. And we talked about, I started watching in 1974, and I used to go to all the reserve games. My dad used to take me to the reserve game on a Wednesday night, every single week we'd go to the reserve game. So there's a whole season of reserve team fixtures. And I was thinking, the thing I was really asking the question is, how can we actually ensure match fitness for the squad when you haven't got reserve team playing? How can people like Jack Watmore, who's waiting to have a game, if he does have a game, the risk must be so high that he's not match fit. So where do we get that match fitness? And even on Tuesday, when you brought Lee Brown in, he had a fantastic game on Tuesday, but there must be a risk because he's had no match fitness games. So surely there must be a case for reserve team football on a regular basis. And I'll just go back in the 80s. I remember going there and I watched Glenn Hoddle play at Fratton Park because he's come back from an injury, and they used to always have to play a reserve game to prove they're fit to play the first team. I just think, is there not something we can do to make sure we have regular fit games to help our squad become match fit when you're going to call them, in the last 15 games, you're going to call on these people who probably have not had a proper 90-minute game?
Was that a quick question, was it?
Right, anyway, thanks everybody. That's all we've got time for today. Thank you, Ian. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's a very relevant point. One that we do discuss and work around. We in a process of reviewing that. But anyway, we put on behind closed doors games. Really, is the main thing, the main way around that. You have to then balance that up to, let's say, committing to a certain amount of fixtures and then picking up injuries, which is, not what you want either, because the balance between being match fit and really pushing them and then losing players when you need them is quite a big one as well. But it is a relevant point, definitely. You're constantly juggling it as a manager, i.e. arranging fixtures, friendlies really, or behind closed door games, and even with sort of modern day GPS, which I'm a really big believer in, because I just think there's no hiding place. It's a fantastic system now in terms of the training, and you have to and can replicate what they're going to do in a game. And for us then, over let's say a month period, we need to be hitting certain numbers, and whether that's through first team games or through training or etc., they have to be hit. But it is a relevant point. There is no just one defined answer, unfortunately, because as I said, you commit to too many games, and you're having then to fulfil reserve team games that could perhaps take away from your first team. Does that make sense? It really is a balancing act. For a lot of clubs, they get a certain amount of fixtures, let's say about 12 to 16 fixtures, and then make up the rest on behind closed doors friendlies to do that, rather than, let's say, commit to a reserve league where it's let's say 30 games, 35 games, which you could pick up injuries in, opportunities for young players as well. The other side of it is that it's really gone away from probably the times you were talking about. I understand where you talk, an old-fashioned reserve league, if you like, but they were always played on the ground, whereas that's not done now. It just doesn't seem to be the done thing. And while there are accommodating people around, it's difficult to find the correct playing surface, if you like, to be able to play on as well, and available grounds, because looking at the local guys, we've got really good relationships with, let's say, Havant or Bognor, etc., but they've got a lot of fixtures themselves to fulfil on that particular pitch.
Okay, thank you very much, Kenny. Is Peter Forrest in the room tonight?
Yep, hello.
Hi, Peter. I think you had a question about substitutions.
Yes, Kenny. Earlier on in the season, we lost 3 games in the last couple of minutes in succession, and the crowd got a bit ugly with you, and we were a lot of anger about lack of substitutions, and defending deeper and deeper, and it seemed to be pretty obvious to most people that there was a goal coming against us. Did at that moment in time, when people were on your back, did it cause you to reflect on your strategy of using substitutes? And if you did reflect on it, what conclusions did you reach?
100% reflect on it, whether there's criticism or not. And I'm my own biggest critic and judge, and but also all you can do is actually play it the way you see it at the time. I do think as well that part of Fratton Park is sensing the mood in the ground and going with that, but you've got to be then convinced that it's still going to be the right move as well. So there's a sort of combination of things, again, 100%. As a manager, you have to make decisions. You have to make decisions every week. You have to make decisions every day. You can't not make decisions, and so you can't be 100% on those. But yes, definitely reflect that particular period. Substitutions, freshness, maybe key players in key positions. They were big ones that didn't work out, that probably were the wrong decisions at the time, and all you can do then is reflect honestly and try to get it right the next time, but I promise you nobody gets everything right, and that was a very frustrating time, because even that particular Coventry game that was there, there was a good performance there. We were 3-1 up and in a good position against a good team. They were a good side that night, and we were 3-1 up and in control. So if it was let's say a 3-0 reverse where you didn't get near them all night and they deserve to win, then sometimes it's a little bit easier to take. But the crowd, like me, were frustrated because, let's be fair, there was a win there. If we'd have seen it outright, we didn't see it outright. Having said that, there's also then sometimes things don't quite go for you. You're looking about the Coventry equaliser, and it was a long throw. We had 10 people in our box. They had 4. The centre half's hit it. It's gone through 2 of my players' legs and then into the corner. So sometimes that sort of plays a part as well. But yes, wrong decisions, wrong calls. Yeah, I'll get that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. had the story recently again about you saying that you're already thinking about your targets for the summer, and I think Peter also said in this question, can we bring back Jayden Stockley from Preston? That was just a throwaway line. I wasn't expecting you to give an unless you want to.
He was on loan here before my time, wasn't he? Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
Right. Chris Underwood. Is Chris Underwood among the crowd? Okay, so this is one we actually touched on earlier, Mark, so I'll ask you anyway. He asked, what do you say to the fans who constantly criticise the Eisners? But as a wider point to that as well, I mean, we talked about, some of the criticism and you felt some of the reaction from fans and maybe some of the coverage that we were doing at the start of the season as regards people sitting at home behind their keyboards and from a distance criticising them.
Yeah, I think you can give too much credence to it. At that time, there was I believe a Q&A we had here that was packed. Neil, what one was it? You was here, Neil, at the time. And there was more or less a standing ovation at the end. And yet you go home and you read a completely different story online. So I think you've got to be careful, you've got to listen to it, you've got to take that on board. But in regards to criticisms of the Eisners, it's very easy to just launch a general assault and say, I don't like them, I don't like this. But if you can give me some specifics where they've failed on what they promised, then I would take that seriously. But everything that they said they were going to do at the Guildhall in regards of self-sustainability, investing in Fratton Park, and as I say all along, just to get the figures out there in a broad sense, there was 10 million put aside for work that was done, and over half that money's already gone. So, and that's over a 3-year period. I thought we would need 5+ over a 5-year period during the takeover. Well, that figure's gone in the first 2.5 years, and there's still a lot more work to be done here. So they're keeping up their side of the bargain. We are debt-free. We're self-sustaining. Win Friday, we continue to improve in our league position. For another Wembley final, we've got Arsenal Monday. So I don't know what people did expect, when they voted for Michael. Because for me, it seems it's going pretty well. We've still got money in the bank. So if there was a specific criticism, we've put in the plans for the Milton end. It's out there now. We've got wider plans for the area. Obviously, we can't conduct those negotiations, as I've said, in public. They are commercially sensitive, but they're there. Everyone behind the scenes knows they're there. So really, if someone can be specific in a criticism, then I'd like to hear it and confront that.
Mm-hmm. Is it easy to cope with? Can you be that rational and just say, right, okay, I've not seen anything, or does it get to you?
It gets to me, but there's people in this room that I know and I trust, and I'd value their opinion than a lot more of people that I read about online that are, with a great respect, quite faceless or not got, won't come and speak to me, because my door's always open. If people have got a view and opinion, I don't think there's anyone in this room or anyone in the wider fan base that has emailed me and said, can I have a meeting? And I've turned them down. So come and have the discussion. I can probably tell them more privately than I can publicly. I can be more open and honest. But, so I think you'll struggle to find a club where you have that. That sort of open door policy, and that's the frustration, that we do operate like that as a club, and yet there's people that sit there behind their computers and won't take me up on that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Similarly, Kenny, how does it affect you and the squad, the online abuse that comes in? I'm thinking, say, as an example, Ronan Curtis, start of the season, not performing as well as last season, a lot of people getting on his back, obviously performing like a star now, but does that affect the team? Does that affect the squad?
I think if you're in football, if you're at this side of the fence, you have to accept criticism. You are going to get criticism, and that has always been there. Mm-hmm. And whether it be the local paper or, as you say, online or whatever, but you have to accept criticism as part of it. Nobody likes it, but it is a part of it. My point of view, sort of earlier in the season, is I always believed we had a good enough team. That's the big thing. And to be fair to the crowd, I can't really think of too many times where they've really turned on the team too much. You might say sort of an isolated incident or a pocket here or there, but that player has put that behind him or fought back or whatever. But I've never really thought the crowd, particularly on the team. And for myself personally, I always thought that we did have a pretty good team, or there's a pretty good team there if I could work it out. If you know, does that make sense? It was there, you know. So, you know, if you're looking at a side and you're maybe in the bottom 4 or something like that, and it's going to be tough to then, you know, work out a successful side. But I did think that there was one here all of the time, and also I've got to say, you know, and criticism of the manager, criticism itself, yes, but they've been good to the players. I do think that, you know. So, you know, and also do know the players appreciate that. The ones that, you know, the older ones, if you like, the younger ones maybe don't sort of open up, but the older lads that say it just do say, yeah, the crowd were great there, got right behind us. You know, it's things like that, and you know, I think that's a key for us, and could be a key for a successful season. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Neil, how do you see it from where you sit? I mean, we have the difficult situation that, you know, we're positive about our local club, but we're also there to speak on behalf of the fans and give them a voice. So we sort of sit in that middle tier. So how do you cope with that in your role?
I think after the AFC Wimbledon game, obviously there was a bit of fan reaction. I remember on Twitter I was called a snowflake and all sorts because I didn't want to say Kenny Jackett out, and I was trying to explain to him, we're a newspaper, we don't launch campaigns to sack managers. It doesn't happen. It didn't happen with my predecessors. It very rarely happens in the country. We don't do that. Imagine if we had done that after Wimbledon. Imagine what the situation would be now. Demanding the manager to be sacked and then 21 wins out of 29 later. And I'm sorry, you know, people have their opinions, whatever. Don't try and make me verify your opinion. If you want the manager sacked, it's up to you. Nothing to do with me. And I mean, one thing that annoys me on social media is when players are criticised. I really hate people putting the players' Twitter handle in criticism. You know, criticise a player, but why do you have to copy them in? It really annoys me because there's just no need. No one wants to hear criticism from a faceless person, you specifically copying you in, and that's something that's crept in as well. And I just find that a bit unpleasant, really. But as ever with football, if the team's doing badly, people criticise. If the team's doing well, people are very happy. But of course, there are always elements that some people are never happy if Pompey are winning, and you do wonder what's the point, really. If you can't be happy when Pompey are winning games, getting promotion, winning the Check of Trade trophy, just don't bother. Just go and support Southampton or whatever. but I mean, I'm not going to name any names. You can guess who they are. But some people on Twitter just moan. Pompey win, they won't say a word. Pompey lose, they're out there having to go to the Ises and all sorts. And it's football, and enjoy the good times. And then,
but ultimately, we all support the same team, don't we? Everyone, whether you think Kenny's a good or bad manager, Ronan Curtis is a good player or a bad player, I'm a good or bad chief exec, yeah? I'm saying that these are the forums to have those discussions.
Yep.
The forums to have the discussions are, Mark, I'm really unhappy about this. Can we have a meeting? Mark, can you address this? Kenny, have you spoken to Kenny about that? That's the way. But to just keep going online and slagging off our players and members of staff doesn't do any good to the club that you purport to support. Have an opinion, but not abusive, not constant. It just becomes white noise then, and then you just don't listen to it anymore. And that's actually a dangerous social media now. It should be a good tool that people do listen like I do and try and take the constructive criticism and that. But in the end, you'd end up not going on there because there's just so much drivel on there.
Yeah.
So
No, you're on.
I remember Adam Webster used to get some terror abuse on social media, and he stopped going on Twitter.
Yeah.
And what happened to him, eh?
And that's a shame, isn't it? Because it should be a good platform.
Yeah, and he's a lovely lad. And he got so much abuse when he was here, and it got to him a little bit. So he just withdrew completely from Twitter, and I say, and look what's happened. Gone from strength to strength, and I just say there's no need to copy players in on abuse. And Christian Burgess was telling me the other day actually that the criticism he got after the Doncaster game last season when he came on as substitute and he misjudged the ball, didn't he, over the top, and McGilvery didn't come out and they scored. And he said that he got so much stick on social media, and he tried to shut himself away from it. And he said a few days later he had a note put through the door, and he opened it up, and it's from a neighbour saying, Christian, just to let you know, the fans are fully behind you. Thank you so much for what you've done to our football club. We really appreciate you. And Christian said that meant the world to him. Mm. It really did. He said, and that's why he loves living in Pompey in the community. And he didn't really know the neighbour that well, but they knew where he lived. And he said that just shows you the good out there in people, and he needed that pick me up.
Yeah. But you're right, Mike. I mean, it's a good platform, but unfortunately, it's in too many wrong hands, and that's where it goes sadly wrong. Right, moving on. Next question. I don't know if David Page is here. David, right? Okay. So this is one to yourself, Mark, and Kenny. David said, should Pompey retain the EFL trophy, but fail to gain promotion either automatically or via the playoffs? Would the manager and the board consider the season to be firstly a success and secondly acceptable as a season's work?
Well, I'll answer that one, Kenny, first, if that's all right. No, I think we've said from the start, you know, our aim, whether we do it or not, it's football, you never know, but is promotion. So if we didn't achieve promotion, I wouldn't deem that a success. However, winning the season we've had today, if it petered off now, even if we didn't win the EFL, it would be disappointing, but it wouldn't be a suicide note from me, if you know what I mean. It's not been, I wouldn't call it a success because we've still got high aspirations, there's still a lot to play for, but if we did taper off, let's just say lose the EFL, didn't get promoted, I would be very disappointed this year. And I'm assuming Kenny would, the board would, I'm assuming the players would, and predominantly the fans would as well.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Kenny.
Yeah, there's so much to play for, isn't there? Still now, and like you say, you know, if it falls away now, we'd have missed an opportunity. So we would feel that, you know, I'd feel that as a manager. The players would feel that there's a chance there. There's an opportunity there. They're big ones. They're exciting, I've got to say, and it's a challenge, but it's the sort of challenge you want to be in football for. You want to be here just coming at the start of March, involved in everything. You don't want to be either at the other end of the table or even mid-table, maybe looking to plan for next year. I understand those seasons happen, but you want these seasons where you're coming into March, you're in 3 competitions, you've got your priorities definitely in terms of competitions, and nobody hides that, but even so, it's an exciting time, it's a good challenge, and we're desperate to be successful, and if we're not, obviously, like everybody, we will be disappointed, because of the chance and the opportunity that is there right now.
I think it's if you close your eyes of the roller coaster from our first game of the season to where we are now, and you suddenly, you know, just became awake now from the first game and opened your eyes and said, we've got a chance to go third, a couple of points off top, right, tomorrow night. We've got Arsenal Monday in the 5th round of the FA Cup, and we're at the EFL Trophy final. Would you take that? Yeah, you'd take that all day long. So that's where we are now. But the disappointment would come if we tailed off now, because we have worked so hard to, you know, resurrect what was a disappointing start to the season to get where we are. I do feel the momentum's going. As Kenny said, we've got all that excitement now going into those games, and I for one believe we can do it, you know. But promotion is the absolute key, really. Okay.
When you talked about sort of tailing off, I guess if you look at last season, those last sort of 4 or 5 games, it sort of did dip. So, is there things that you've learnt from last season, Kenny, or the squad has learnt? Yeah,
definitely. We've got to try to keep our energy levels, you know, maybe just a bit of sparkle. I wouldn't call it enthusiasm, because, you know, no players go into big games and big situations like that not trying to be successful. Ours do. But, be able to keep that sparkle, enthusiasm. I think we've got a better side now than we did this time last year. And we've got a few more changes, because there's a few changes that are quite, let's say, like for like. You know, one player does X, another does Y in the same position, but it's a good competition between them, the two of them, and probably along the way you need them both. Sometimes within one game you need them both. So I think there's a little bit more depth and, a better side, and hopefully, you know, we can finish strong. And it was a funny one last year, because we had that spell where we won 7 games on the trot. I think we stole one at Burton, I think. Clarkey scored the winner, and then after that, then certainly the performances that they weren't poor, but they levelled out and looked a little bit flat, and we want to do everything we can to avoid that.
How did on keeping the spark going, and you say you've got a better squad this time round, better team this time round? It's an old question, but how do you keep everyone happy? Because I'm assuming everyone wants to be playing every game, but you've got to be sensible. You've got to rest people as you did on Tuesday night. Is it easy to keep the whole squad together as one, or are people still sitting there thinking, well, hold on a minute, why am I not playing this game? I want to play on every game.
Yeah, that's not easy. It never has been, and it never will be. you know, but then that is your job. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know, your job is to try to be honest, try to be honest, be constructive with, you know, what they need to do to get in the team, and then to show them sort of light at the end of the tunnel that it could happen, if you like. You know, that's where it is. I wouldn't say it's necessarily an easy part of the job, but it is part of the job. And you know, when they sit in front of me and say, well, you know, I want to play, you say, right, fine, you come and sit here and see if you can do it with 11, because it's very difficult to do that. But anyway, as I said, combination of those things, you have to work at it. It's not easy, but I do think as well for this group at the moment, there's so many things up and coming that they are all trying. You know, the ones that are sort of just on the outside and the fringe, they can see that it's a change and maybe they could get in. There's an overall that we could get up. There's perhaps a Wembley appearance. There's et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, there's in terms of the group, when you're going well and there's lots to play for and you're going, it's a bit easier to handle the group. If you're maybe fifth from bottom or something like that and people are out the team, that's a bit tougher. Yeah.
All right. Thanks a lot, Kenny. Thank you. Right. Anyone from the floor want to put their hand up and ask a particular question? Yep. Gentleman over there, if you can.
One of the things that's been really important is how our goal difference has crept up. We're plus 16 now. But one of the frustrating things about Coventry, for example, and other games, has been how many chances have been just blown away. Against Exeter, we saw 3 really brilliant bits of penalty area skill. Marcus's back heel, the decision to chip the ball from outside the area by McGeehan, and then that skill by Curtis to bring the ball on his chest and then whip that crossover. Those are 3 excellent moments of football. But there have been so many frustrating moments around the penalty area where our goal difference could have been nearly up to the 30s. How do you get players to improve decision making around the penalty area?
Yeah, number one is practice. 100% practice, and then in terms of management, it's a balance of, I say criticism, but information, but encouragement, because in the end, nobody means to necessarily, you know, miss a chance or not produce some quality, and then you have to make your players feel that they're backed, that you're with them, and you're judging them then on. In terms of management, it's maybe a bit of a wider question, but you can judge players on their preparation. You can judge players on their attitude. You can judge players on what they bring to the team in terms of it is a team and the team effort. And then say, keep working at your quality. If you ever get as a manager where you're just criticising quality, you sometimes then do get a down in output, because you need to be able to, as a footballer, do it spontaneously and quickly as well. And the McGeehan one was actually a deflection, not a chip.
Is that what he said?
When you Harry Redknapp brought in one of your ex-teammates, leave the business, to work on his finishing particularly. Do you ever consider bringing specialist attack coaching?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. In terms of attackers, really, just sort of Joe was the centre forward, so Joe Gallen likes to work with the centre forwards on a regular basis. The interesting ones, I mean, that I've read, and again, just this maybe going off topic a little bit, but you know, Brentford have a set piece coach. Now, I find that interesting. Jurgen Klopp employed, he's a freelance guy, but he employed a throw-in coach. You know, so they're just interesting points of somebody that can make a difference. The set piece one is quite a big one, I think, with everything that's there. Work with the forwards on a regular basis. So yes, definitely, you know, and in terms of responsibility, that does happen to be Joe. People from the outside, the one that comes on a regular basis is Stuart Pearce, who does work more with the defenders, really, though, but is pretty good at it. But then after that, where would I go? Yeah, a set piece coach is a good one, especially with the amount of technology you've got now and availability. But you know, actually a specialist throwing coach, it just shows you what detail Klopp's going into. And this guy, you know, just reading about him, is freelance across 3 or 4 clubs. I'll give him a call. Yeah. But anyway, that's a bit of a spin-off. But yeah, those sort of things are definitely part of it, and will come into it. 100% will come into it. Yeah.
Just on specialists as well, do you have anyone who works on the psychological side as we come to this crunch part of the season? Do you have?
Yeah, I always think that the manager is the head psychologist,
Yep.
and that's the key, because the players know that you pick them, and get the most response. I've worked with a lot of psychologists, sports psychologists, if you like, but I've always thought the key one is a manager. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Ken. Anyone else? Questions? Yeah.
So after the MK Dons game away, after the defensive mix-up between McGilvery and Raggett, obviously you dropped McGilvery from that game onwards, and for me, Raggett's been one of our most consistent players since then. Just obviously, the start of the season, his confidence was quite low. Just wanted to know what you've done with him, so his confidence is sky high now, it seems. Yeah,
just tried to back him, really, give him encouragement, because everybody, if you're going to be successful, you need encouragement as well as the right information. I always thought, though, Sean would do it. If you're just looking at probably last season, and I know somebody just said down there you're the only one, but if you're looking at last season, he didn't play much, and this year it took him a little while. He had a couple of injuries, he had a real bad cut on his elbow, and then he got it infected. Things like that can sort of disturb you a little bit, but he's not the sort of type to ever then stop playing and training. So he played for it, but credit to him, he's done fantastic, really. I do think he's done well. In terms of Craig, I don't think Craig did a lot wrong. I just got a real feeling for sort of Alex Bass at that time, and it's needed. And I rate Alex, but I still do rate Craig as well. I think he's a terrific keeper. But credit to Sean. I do think he's just, though, coming off the back of last season where he didn't play much. He's just needed a little bit of time to settle in. But he's made of the right stuff in terms of his determination. It's very, very, very good, very high. Yeah.
You mentioned Craig there as well, Kenny. I don't know if Jimmy Brown has made it here tonight, but he asked a question about Craig about, do you think he's going to want to leave in the summer, given the situation? He came here, he was number 2 at Shrewsbury, he's number 2 at Walsall, now he finds himself at number 2 at Pompey. That's going to be a hard discussion, is it, this summer? Yeah,
first off, though, it can change, can't it? We have big games coming up, and I did feel sort of last summer, and then up until when the window closed, which is September the 1st, it was quite sort of isolated, selfish. I didn't think it was really pulled together particularly, and I said that to the players. I said that publicly as well. Since then, we've worked at our team spirit, and we've worked at our togetherness, and the players have as well. Not just me saying it. They've pulled themselves together and worked as a group, and that is part of it. Portsmouth at the moment have got 2 good goalkeepers. It should have, it should have 3 or 4. It's a great club, and Craig has to realise he's part of that as well. There is always a time for an individual situation. I don't think it's now. We have at the moment a great backup goalkeeper who's probably on a par with a number 1. And as I said, as a club, we should be worrying if we only have 1 keeper. But if and when that situation comes in the summer, we have to always as well consider the club. It's the club first. That's the reason we're all here. And for him, he's had frustrating times, and his time will come again, definitely. I don't in any way think he's finished at Portsmouth, no.
Okay, thanks, Kenny. You've talked a lot about the squad and the better team you've got together. Obviously, as always, the January transfer window was crucial for the club again this season. Mark, I know you would have worked closely with Kenny on that. Marks out of 10, how do you rate the past transfer window that we've gone through, and did you learn anything from the January from last season?
I think definitely. I think that, as I've said consistently, that the January window before this one was as much about the players we lost. Jack Watmore getting injured, Ben Thompson getting recalled by Millwall because he'd been successful, and because we'd done so well, it had been a pretty consistent team selection. So we also lost Andre Green, who we all know was a great player but wasn't getting game time here. There was David Wheeler left as well, and there was a few left because they wasn't getting the game time because we'd been so successful. Then we got some injuries, lost Ben, lost Jack as well, and then it didn't look as good, although the players that we had brought in were good players. But as Kenny said about Sean, you do need a run of games before you start getting that form back, and we went into end of Jan, Feb, on a bad run, and then everything started to dip, and you started looking, when's the season ending? Just want it to end now, and it wasn't a great January window for whatever reason. But I feel that we did learn from that. We just brought in 3. One, obviously, Rico, very much, one, it was more for the midterm that we were going to work on. He's a great player, by the way. Seddon came in, had a great impact, and McGeehan's come in and made a great impact. So this year it was very much about bringing in players who Kenny identified and said that he felt they could go straight in and make a material impact and not just be squad players. Yeah. And I think that has worked well. You didn't want too much disruption. And
very quick off the mark, most of those deals were done right at the start of the window.
Yeah.
So there must have been a lot of thought and planning going in.
Well, Lee had been carrying an injury, hadn't he, really, for a while. Yeah. And then Brandon picked up an injury, so Seddon had been one. I think Kenny had his eye on for a long, long while. So it was a case of, look, can we just get in as soon as we can and get that done? McGeehan, the same. We knew McGeehan's quality, knew that he was obviously not being selected at Barnsley, but had a great record at League One. And Rico was the first one done, I believe, wasn't it? It was straight on window day because we'd been doing that deal earlier on in the season. Yep. So they were well thought out, and then we went through January. This year, Touchwood didn't pick up any injuries, so didn't have to make any knee-jerk reactions, and we were quite settled, really, quite early in January. So if you ask me to mark it, I don't want to, pat yourself on the back here, but I do think it's a good 9 out of 10 in what we've done, because you can. I said when people were saying to me, "How are you going to judge the January window?" It's, well, do we finish the season higher than we went into the January window? If you do, then you've had a good January window, and at the moment it feels like we have had a good January window. Okay. But who knows? I mean, it's still a long way to go at the end of the season.
Much to play for. Thank you. Yeah. Right, any more for any more? Sorry, I've gone back this way. Sorry. Yes.
It's a nuts and bolts thing. Only a small thing. I'm up a north stand, right in the middle, halfway line, and people just stand in front of us on the concourse, and the stewards just walk by, and it blocks the view, save 10% of the ground I can't see.
Is that during the game or near the end when people will leave?
No, this is during the game. Yeah. You might, if you're lucky, this steward will turn up a quarter of an hour after it started, and then that's it. And they just walk by. We don't seem to have a steward there to say, sit down or anything. And the last match where it rained, they just gave in. So we had about 6 deep.
If you can see me after, I'll give you an email address and we'll look into that. All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So there's a gentleman at the back there as well.
Hi, Mark.
Hello there.
All right. Light challenge for you, I guess, but it's well meant. Average salary in this division, player salary, is about $3,000 a week. So that's 25-man squad. That's about 75,000 a week. It's about 300,000 a month. If we get up into the championship, average salary in the championship at the moment, player salary is about 10k a week. So 25-man squad, 250 a week. That's £1 million a month compared to about 300,000 a month where we are. That's a big step. At the moment, 18 out of the 24 clubs in the championship are in debt, some of them in significant debt. We've done so well to get where we are, and I know we want to desperately be in the championship, but can we genuinely afford to compete in there? And are you convinced you've got the people around you that are sensible enough to hold this and not get all starry-eyed again and not start taking a punt on the Premier League and we end up where we are? I know it's a bit of a challenge, but I mean, it's well meant.
I know it's well meant. To put it in perspective, you are right. I mean, the figures are actually worse in the Championship. In regards, I think the average salaries in League One's probably about $2.5 million, in that range as the medium. You get into the Championship, it's closer to 20 million for player salaries alone. Yeah. So that's the gulf. You do get more money being in the Championship. We can't get near to 20 million on a self-sustaining model. But if you look at, there is now, you're correct in pointing out, there's a gap beginning to develop between like 2 of the 3 that went up last year, looking serious danger of coming back down. I think the other year there was 3 went up straight from getting relegated the year before. So I think that is an issue not just for Portsmouth, that's an issue more generally in football. The EFL are aware of it. There's some tighter controls, I believe, coming along in regard to the Championship. But to answer your question, do you think that well, I know the answer, so it's not a thing. Without putting the club in difficulty and without going down a model of, again, getting into debt and losing too much money, I think there's a figure that Michael will back us on that will give us a very good fighting chance of getting a foothold in the Championship. And if we can get a foothold for a year or two, I do believe that may be an investment worth making to sustain ourselves in the Championship, mid to long term. Because that seems to be, if you look at Millwall as an example, they got there, they've had flirted with relegation, now they seem to be establishing themselves as a Championship club. Now I know what they're roughly, good friends with Millwall, and that internally amongst clubs we sort of know what budgets are. They've got a budget that's not, it's a lot more than what we could do in the Championship at the moment, but maybe there is an argument for a little bit of investment, banking on cup runs, banking on player sales that can get us close to that figure and give us a fighting chance of competing well in the Championship. And it always comes down to having good manager, good backroom staff, good commercial team, good chief operations officer, finance directors and whatever. And I think out through how we run the club, there's no fat on this club at this level. We've taken all the discipline that we had out of fan ownership of making every penny count, carrying that through into the Championship and not suddenly giving X person who's on, say, £30,000 a year a particular role at the club and just say, no, we're in the Championship now you're going to be on 100,000, and if we get to the Prem, you're going to be on 250,000, I don't think we're going to be that. We're going to be very sensible and try and maximise every penny we can get to put it on the pitch to give ourselves a fighting chance.
So when you look around that top team, not many starry eyes there then?
No, but as I say, because I do want to allay that I don't want us to go into the Championship with dread. It will be a challenge to compete because it's a challenge for every club now that gets promoted from League One into the Championship. That there's a big gap, but I don't think it's something that's insurmountable, and I think it's something with some sustainable investment is what I would call it. I believe that we can give ourselves a fighting chance of getting a foothold there.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks for the question. I'm conscious we're sort of heading into the last 5 minutes now. Anybody with any more questions? I think just the lad at the back there, please. Thank you.
Obviously, other than having 10% of the fans backing us, do you know what it is that makes the away form less good than the home form?
Yeah, that is an interesting one. I can't necessarily put my finger on it. Our away form was so good last year. I do think probably when you're looking at away games, sort of the defending is more important. You get perhaps less decisions, and we were very resilient, and a lot of our wins, and was it a record wins last year in terms of away games? A lot of our wins were sort of back to the wall games where we had to defend, and we haven't quite been as resolute in terms of our defending, I don't think, and that's been quite a big key. But look, we've got some really big games, and again, let's between now and the end of the season make sure that our away form gets to at least respectable or good. That has to be the aim, because we're not going away from home and losing by a sort of country mile. We've lost the Coventry game, we've lost the Fleetwood game recently, and we've been close in both games. Close isn't good enough, but it does show that you have to make up maybe that rather than that big gap that I was talking about at the start. And if we can turn it round, fine. But I do think though that defensively sometimes we were a little bit stronger last year. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So final question of the evening. Guy there patiently been putting his hand up quite a lot.
Working up of the master plan for Fratton Park, what consideration was given to the UEFA stadium design guidelines regarding pitch size, runoff areas, pitch orientation, facilities for players in terms of dressing rooms and medical facilities?
Yeah.
And was the manager involved and asked for an opinion on such matters?
Well, in regards of UEFA rules and regulations, the manager wasn't consulted because they are the rules and regulations, and we won't be doing anything that doesn't make us compliant should eventually we get back to the Premier League and qualify for UEFA competitions. So we have taken all of that on view. With the architects that we've used that were working with the likes of Tottenham and the Olympic Stadium and all those type of things. So we have used the top architects who have given us those guidelines and those recommendations.
Okay, thanks a lot, Mark. So just to wrap it up for the evening, Neil, I just wonder what your thoughts are as you head towards another end of season as regards how it's all going to pan out over the next few weeks, few months.
It better be promotion because I'm writing a book about this season.
Fair play, son. You've waited until this time before mentioning the book, so you know.
Actually, I've been writing it as I've gone along, and I spoke to Mark and Kenny in September. Very different times actually when we spoke as well. So I'm hoping for a happy ending really, with promotion and a Wembley win. But it's just been a strange old season, hasn't it? And I say back in September, October, nobody thought Pompey would be in this position. And I've always said...
I did tell you at the time, do you remember?
You did, yeah.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
I think you told the party line that time. I did tell you at the time. And Mark will back me up. I've always said that I thought I saw Pompey getting into the playoffs. Always thought that. But I couldn't see automatic promotion. However, we've seen Wickham crumble a bit, Ipswich crumble completely, haven't we? And suddenly it's wide open, and you look at where Pompey are this moment in time, it's there, the automatic promotion spots are there. It's a tight league, it's not a wonderful quality this year. Last year, for me, the top three clubs thoroughly deserved to go up, the best teams I saw. And this year, Rotherham are good, I thought, when they visited Fratton Park. And Coventry have been tough as well, but it is really there for anyone, and I think it's impossible to call. And again, I go back to my colleagues in the industry, everyone discounting Pompey. Pompey are right up there. They really, really are, and backed up by this strong home form. If Pompey can get a couple of wins from their rivals in the remaining games, they can do it, can't they? And looking at Pompey's home fixtures, Fleetwood's the only real tough one as well. So
there's some superstitious people in the crowd, isn't there? It's terrible, isn't it?
But yeah,
and up
so
there as well, by the way. Yeah.
It's all there, isn't it? And I think it's going to be an intriguing finale, isn't it? It's going to go right to the wire, isn't it? But as we saw against Cheltenham, things can happen on the last day of the season, can't they? Nobody thought that Pompey would go from third to top on the last day of the season, and it's going to go right to the wire again for this one, I think. And I think we're going to have interesting times. But that's football. That's Pompey, isn't it?
I think I can't remember now what the number was, but that season Pompey were only top for, was it 24 minutes?
32 minutes.
32. But it was the most
final
important
32
minutes.
Pompey were top of the league, weren't they? And I just say it's there, isn't it? It's so tight, and I don't think you can scout anyone in the top 9 at the moment.
Okay, thank you. So
I think it's important to take every game as it comes now as well.
Yeah.
That there will be ups and downs and twists and turns, and we're going to lose a game, and everyone's going to think that the wheels have come off, and they haven't. We just got to put that to bed, move on to the next one, and it is an exciting time. Start, tomorrow, Monday against Arsenal. Really the Wembley finals just in the distance. I think we've got to put that one away for now. Not worry too much about that, but every game seems to be exciting, and as I say, just keep backing us like you do, and give us the best chance of getting to where we want to be.
Yeah, because that was a question I was going to put. Was that I love your analogy about you suddenly wake up on the roller coaster, and here we are, it just coming into March. So would that be your message for those people in the crowd who've just woken up on the roller coaster? Is that the message to the fans? There's going to be some twists and turns.
There will continue to be some twists and turns, but as I say, just like we're not going to win the league if we win tomorrow, we're not going to not go up if we lose tomorrow. It's one game. There's still points to be won, and as we know in the past, under the year we went up in League Two, we looked down and out. I think it was the home game here. Was it against Crewe? Crewe.
Yeah.
Where everyone wanted Paul sacked, and there wasn't that long to go, was it?
No.
And then went to Crawley, turned it round, went on an amazing run, and it will be that team now out of the pack that will just suddenly go on this run. Mm-hmm. I think one of our advantages is the depth of our squad, and touch wood, they seem to be coming into fitness and format at the right time, and we've just got to keep nurturing that along, treat every game as it comes, not get too high, not get too low, see where it takes us, but most importantly, just stick with us, please. That will give us the best chance of success.
Brilliant. Thank you, Mark. And same thing, Kenny. What would be your message to the fans here tonight?
Yeah, the link between the players and the fans is a key one, and You know, that link's been good. The players really appreciate it anyway. That's what I feel, and for all of us, you know, we're talkers, aren't we? And I know I can influence greatly, obviously, but they're the ones that do it, and you know, keep backing those lads, because you know, believe me as well, they really want it. They do. You know, they're a committed group, and they want success this year, and they're giving it everything. So keep backing them.
Okay, thank you, Jenny. Thank you very much. So yeah, Neil's plugged his book, so I'm going to do my bit of advertising now as well. So. You've heard everything about Pompey tonight. Obviously, if you don't want to miss a beat between now and the end of the season, then what better way to follow the club than following us on portsmouth.co.uk, where Neil and the team will be giving you every single bit of information about Pompey season as it unwinds between now and then. Only £1 a month. We've got an offer going at the moment, so that'll see you through the most of the season. If you want to subscribe with us, you won't miss a beat. You get a better, faster service. You get an ad light service, and you get a free access to the news app. So that's my bit of advertising done. There's leaflets on your seats, so please take them away with us. Subscribe, become part of the news family. We'll be looking to do more events like this, and we'll be looking to thank those subscribers who have backed us. So take those away, subscribe with the news, and then follow a very glorious end to the season that we've got lined up for Pompey. While I'm on the way of thanks, I'd just like to repeat a few thanks. Thanks for Neil for giving up his time tonight, and the rest of the sports team. Mark, the sports editor, and Will are here at the back. Thanks also Zelda from the events team. Thanks for the Pompey events team, and also the University of Portsmouth students who have supported us and filmed us tonight. I'd obviously particularly like to thank Mark and Kenny. We're having a chat beforehand, and you know, truthfully, you know, this is a very open club. You've heard them give very honest answers tonight. They've not shied away from anything, and we do generally thank the support you give us and the fact that you've backed our event tonight. So can we have a round of applause, please, for Mark and Kenny? And last but no means least, thanks to you for turning up and making this event a success. I say it's our first fans forum. Very pleased with the turnout tonight. Would have been a bit dull if none of you had turned out, because we would have had to just chat amongst ourselves, and you know, might have got bored after a while. But seriously, thanks for your turnout. Thanks for your success. So it's a good night from me, and play up Pompey. Thank you very much.
Thank you.